presiding officers. And please remain standing for the playing of the national anthems of Canada and the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Please be seated. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jason Elcock, and I will be the Master of Ceremonies at today's signing ceremony of the twinning agreement between the Parliament of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and the Legislative Assembly of Ontario. My task, therefore, is simply to introduce the various speakers and presenters, and I begin by doing so by welcoming to the podium Senator the Honorable Christine Kangaloo, President of the Senate, who will bring welcoming remarks. You can put your hands together for her.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The Honorable Bridget Anisette George, MP, Speaker of the House of Representatives of the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Ted Arnott, MPP, Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario, and other members of his delegation, Her Excellency Carla Hogan-Ruffel, our High Commissioner to Canada, Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Honorable Esmond Ford, MP, Vice President of the Senate, Senator Nigel De Freitas, other members of Parliament present here, other members of the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago who are present here, including members of the Executive Committee of the local chapter of the CPA, especially His Worship the Mayor of Port of Spain, Alderman Joel Martinez, specially invited guests, all other distinguished persons present here this morning, members of the media. After all of that, I say good morning. It gives me great pleasure to bring these brief welcome remarks at this morning's ceremony to commemorate the signing of the twinning agreement between the Legislative Assembly of Ontario, Canada, and the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. It is my particular privilege to welcome to Trinidad and Tobago the Honourable Ted Arnott, MPP, Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario, and other members of his delegation. On one level, today's ceremony represents the culmination of over 6 years of consultative work between the Trinidad and Tobago branch of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association and the Canadian branch of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, aimed at securing the twinning of our Parliament with one of the legislatures in Canada. On another, deeper and more subtle level, today's ceremony represents what is perhaps the natural, if inevitable, consequence of the powerful historical and cultural forces that for decades have made and kept Trinidad and Tobago and the province of Ontario close allies and even closer friends. For reasons that will no doubt engage and excite historians and cultural anthropologists for years to come, Trinidad and Tobago and the province of Ontario have long enjoyed a unique and a particularly close bond. We have long lived in each other's lands, and we have long shared the same love of cultural expression and commitment to cultural diversity that mark us as places that attract a wide range of visitors, and especially each other. And so it is that 2 of every 3 immigrants from Trinidad and Tobago to Canada choose to settle in the province of Ontario, with many, if not most of us, choosing to live in the city of Toronto. In 2012, on a visit to Trinidad and Tobago, the former Canadian Governor-General, David Johnston, noted that some 100,000 Trinbagonians now live in Canada. Nor has the traffic been one way. Today, some 6,000 Canadians currently live in Trinidad and Tobago. And in one of the most powerful demonstrations of the perfect blend of our shared cultural diversity and expression, thousands of Trinbagonians and Canadians come together every year to celebrate Caribana, that famous festival of Caribbean culture and traditions held each summer in the city of Toronto. The truth of the matter, therefore, is that Trinidad and Tobago and the province of Ontario have in many ways long been twinned. Today's ceremony may mark the twinning of our legislatures, but the lives and destinies of our peoples have long been inextricably intertwined and inseparably linked. As we welcome our twin brothers and sisters to today's ceremony, what we welcome is a new level of cooperation and collaboration between us. Our historical and cultural indicators assure us that as we work and live together, this endeavour, like all those of the past, will surely be immensely successful and will add another important dimension to our shared destinies. Welcome, therefore, to this latest chapter in this wonderful story of us. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam President. We now come to a description, a definition of the background of twinning and synopsis of the benefits of twinning. And to perform this, it's a shared responsibility, so I'll first welcome the Clerk of the House of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Mrs. Jacqueline Sampson Miguel. You do it? You want to do it? Okay, well, you're doing it together. She'll be accompanied, of course, by Mr. Todd Decker, Clerk of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario.
Good morning, Madam President of the Senate, Speakers, Deputy Speakers, Vice President, High Commissioner, the Mayor of Port of Spain, Ministers of Government, Members of Parliament, my fellow clerks, colleagues, members of the media, good morning. The twinning of legislatures is similar to the sister city relationship that exists between cities of different countries. The aim is to promote cooperation among legislatures, and it is commonly practiced among member branches of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. Informally, all Commonwealth parliaments already work together through their secretariats, and many work together at the speaker, parliamentarian, or clerk level. So for example, Todd, Tanya, Brian, and I, together with hundreds of our colleagues, are in fact members of the Society of Clerks at the Table in Commonwealth Parliaments, a professional body that exists to provide a means by which the parliamentary procedures and practice of various legislative chambers of the Commonwealth may be made more accessible to clerks or those interested in parliamentary administration and procedural matters. Now, while this arrangement exists Commonwealth-wide, the twinning of the legislatures of Ontario and Trinidad and Tobago will facilitate the fostering among our officers of a mutual interest in their duties through a range of programs for parliamentarians as well as for parliamentary staff. So, from the standpoint of the clerkship, through this project, we will seek to appreciate and understand the unique procedures and practices of the Ontario legislature. We intend to share our distinctive practices and experiences, and all this will help when we reflect on our rules of business, which are regularly under review by our members. Further, we plan to engage with our colleagues in Ontario, even more than we currently do now, Todd, to improve aspects of parliamentary administration, especially where there are critical gaps. And so we are excited, very, very excited, to establish a deeper network with you and your team for ongoing information sharing among parliamentary staff. So we have 2 minutes, so I'm going to stop here and allow my twin Todd to speak a little bit more about the Trinidad and Tobago and Canada relationship as we deepen this experience.
Thank you, Jackie. Good morning, everyone. Madam President, speakers, members of the Trinidad and Tobago Parliament, High Commissioner. It gives me a great pleasure to participate in these proceedings today. I'm very proud of all the work that has brought us to this point, and looking ahead, I'm excited to witness how our legislative partnership will grow and develop in the future. The Canadian region of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association consists of 14 branches, 10 provinces, 3 territories, and the federal branch. Several years ago, as Madam President alluded to, it was identified as a priority for our CPA branch, for whom it would be possible to work to establish deeper ties with the Caribbean region of the CPA. This made tremendous sense, since for Canada, the countries of the Caribbean, of course, are among our nearest international neighbors, and those Caribbean countries in the Commonwealth are our closest parliamentary family. Canada's ties to the Caribbean and Caribbean countries' ties to Canada are extremely strong. It was seen that strengthening those ties even more was a worthy goal in its own right, but also could serve to strengthen the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association in the greater sense. Ontario watched as the parliaments of 2 of its fellow provinces successfully made twinning agreements in the Caribbean, British Columbia with Guyana and Prince Edward Island with the Turks and Caicos. Having attended the Commonwealth Parliamentary Conference here several years ago, Jackie reminded me it was actually in 1999, quite a long time ago, I fondly remembered Port of Spain and Trinidad and Tobago. That experience first introduced me to Jackie, and we've crossed paths several times since then. My colleague Tanya has had a long relationship and acquaintance with Jackie as well, and so it seems so natural and comfortable that the parliaments of our 2 jurisdictions are able to come together and make this agreement together today. On behalf of my Speaker Arnott and Deputy Speaker Nichols, I want to express the gratitude of the Ontario Legislative Assembly for the support of Senate President Kengaloo and Speaker Anisette George for helping in making this partnership agreement come to fruition. Over the last several months, we've worked hard to develop the formal agreement that will be signed shortly, which aims to promote collaboration, cooperation, and understanding between our parliaments to the mutual benefit of both. I look forward to the opportunities that members and staff of the Parliament of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and the members and staff of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario will have to visit each other's parliaments, exchange ideas, compare best practices, and benefit from the knowledge and experience of each other. This will be when what we are doing today will truly begin to pay benefits, and Ontario is committed to the full success of this agreement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Sampson Miguel and Mr. Decker. On our program, we now come to the signing of the twinning agreement, and I believe the agreement is already in place, so yeah, go ahead. Perfect angle right here. Signing first is Madam President and go ahead. Take on speaker. Look across. Yeah. Now Speaker Arnott. Okay. Okay, they're exchanging the agreements between them. Very well. And a round of applause. Okay, the twinning agreement being signed and exchanged. I now come to remarks. I'd like to welcome to the podium the Honourable Ted Arnott, MPP, Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario. Please put your hands together.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure and an honor for me to be here as Speaker of the Legislative Assembly and to be joined by my colleague, the Deputy Speaker, Rick Nichols, our Clerk, Todd Decker, and our Clerk of Procedural Services, Tanya Granum. We are absolutely ecstatic to be joining you today here in Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago, and I can't tell you how excited we are to be getting to know you, first of all. Thank you for your warm hospitality, and to be looking forward to this exciting new relationship that we're forging today, a relationship, as Todd was saying, of collaboration, cooperation, and understanding. And we are looking forward to the remainder of the time here and all that will flow. Just as Ontario attracts people from all over the world, the Legislative Assembly of Ontario reaches out all over the world. We have a long tradition of active engagement in the organization of interparliamentary programs and study visits for foreign parliamentarians and officials, including friendship and twinning agreements. In addition to fostering reciprocal goodwill, these programs provide parliamentarians with concrete opportunities to learn from their counterparts, to develop skills, share information, and address common issues. For our legislature, the benefits of formal twinning agreements have often proven to be greater than those of other fields of interparliamentary activity, such as ad hoc visits to or from another jurisdiction or formally organized study visits. The advantage of a partnership agreement is that it endures over time. The benefits of interparliamentary cooperation, we believe, are self-evident, particularly to those present today. However, I hope you'll permit me to identify but a few unique twin agreements. The benefit of a formal legislature-to-legislature twinning agreement lies in its capacity to be tailor-made to the specific needs and resources of each partner. Both of our jurisdictions are unique, and our agreement will be flexible and practical, taking this into account. Twinning agreements help to deepen the relationship between the two jurisdictions, and they aim at encouraging further cooperation and mutual understanding. As we come to know each other better, the links of collegiality will soon become the bonds of friendship. Twinning agreements represent a unique opportunity to encourage the exchange of experiences on a variety of issues of common interest, and this too, we believe, is self-evident. And twinning agreements are ideal vehicles for capacity building, skills training, and the strengthening of parliamentary practice and democracy amongst partners. In a world where the only constant is change, and our political and governmental systems face continuous challenge and uncertainty, we can work together to improve our effectiveness in the service of our people. These benefits support the elected member at the individual level and the institutions and the constituents they represent. Unlike other vocations, there is no formal professional training for members of Parliament, at least in Ontario. Regardless of the diverse professional, academic, or life experience that newly elected legislators may bring with them, upon election, they are faced with a steep and daunting learning curve and a demanding schedule. Forums that bring parliamentarians together to discuss issues of mutual concern, to consider best practices, to share experiences, and to learn practical skills can serve as an invaluable form of education and professional development in its own right. In our experience in the province of Ontario, parliamentary institutions are strengthened via strong and robust twinning agreements. Legislatures with little interparliamentary exposure can utilize twinning agreements to expand their efforts in manageable ways. Legislatures with established, robust interparliamentary programs can leverage twinning agreements to better prioritize and direct the resources, effort, and time they allocate to interparliamentary activity. But most importantly, legislatures committed to successful execution of a twinning program have the key advantages of continuity and consistency, the opportunity to build on progressive visits, and the long-term vision that favors incremental, cumulative, comprehensive programming, capacity building, and information sharing. The benefits that I have talked about today are all the goals that we are confident we can achieve with our agreement today, and we look forward to our partnership together and the opportunity to welcome you for the first official visit to the Ontario Legislative Assembly under this new agreement, and we hope that that can take place as soon as it possibly can. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Also bringing remarks is the Speaker of the House of the Parliament of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Please join me in welcoming the Honourable Bridget Anisette George to the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Master of Ceremonies. And of course, we all know the difficulties when you speak last. People have already heard many of the things that you would like to see. So, Senator the Honourable Christine Kangaloo, President of the Senate, the Honourable Ted Arnott, MPP, Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario, Canada, Mr. Rick Nichols, MPP, Deputy Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario, Canada, members of the Executive Committee of the CPA branch of Trinidad and Tobago, Mrs. Glenda Jennings-Smith, MP, Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of National Security, retired Brigadier General Ansel Antoine, MP, Senator Wade Mark, and Senator Anthony Vera, and we do also have Senator Paul Richards. Members of the Parliament of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and we have our Deputy Speaker, Mr. Esmond Ford, and Mr. Nigel De Freitas, Vice President of the Senate, Her Excellency Carla Hogan-Ruffel, High Commissioner of Canada to the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, His Worship, Alderman Joel Martinez, the Mayor of the City of Port of Spain, Professor Rosemary Bell Antoine, Dean of the Faculty of Law of the University of West Indies, St. Augustine Campus, Mr. Gard Chatur, former High Commissioner of Trinidad and Tobago to Canada, Ms. Lara Ramcharan, and Ms. Laurie Allen of the Canadian Women's Club, clerks of the Houses and of the Legislative Assembly, other specially invited guests, members of the media, staff of the Office of the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, other ladies and gentlemen, pleasant good morning. The role of parliamentarians is usually succinctly explained by three descriptive functions: representative, legislative, and overseer of the executive. However, these three crisp descriptions belie the ever-expanding nature of the work of a legislator. One need look no further than the role given to parliaments in the achievement of Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals to appreciate the all-encompassing span which a legislator is required to cover. In fact, the United Nations Development Programme publication, Parliament's Role in Implementing a Parliamentary Handbook, sets out the critical role for Parliament. However, well prior to the establishment of the Sustainable Development Goals, there has been a developing parliamentary democracy, which offers opportunities for parliamentarians to share best practices on good governance, security, finance reform, oversight, education, youth development, the environment, and sustainability. And it has been recognized that many of those issues cannot be solely understood and/or resolved nationally, but require the help of and collaboration with others. Twinning or partnership agreements have evolved through this need for collaboration and cooperation. As you may be well aware, and Mr. Speaker mentioned it, partnership agreements are not novel among the parliaments of the Commonwealth. In fact, I'm advised that our partner, the Legislative Assembly of Ontario, has since 2016 established such a relationship with the Victoria Parliament of Australia. For our Parliament, however, this partnership agreement is a first. And from the advice available to Madam President and to me, the format of today's signing may not be in accordance with the usual practice. But we have taken the deliberate decision to formalize this relationship with our new partner, the Legislative Assembly of Ontario, in the full gear of our constituents, and to ensure their participation, even if remotely, through the mechanism of technology available to us for reasons which I hope shall become more obvious shortly. Australia and the South Pacific can rightfully claim to be the parents of twinning agreements between parliaments of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, the successes of which have encouraged the Canadian region of the CPA to adopt this model and actively offer its branches a partner to other legislatures of the Commonwealth, and in our case, of the Caribbean, America, and Atlantic region. In fact, Mr. Speaker has spoken of the benefits of legislatures who have twinned. Having heard not only from Mr. Speaker, but also from our respective clerks of the benefits to be enjoyed by legislatures from twinning agreements, as Madam President and I, as presiding officers, are of the view, and I feel confident that any reasonable, objective bystander would agree, that forging such relationships is a step in a positive direction in light of that ever-increasing mandate of legislatures. In this particular instance, in addition to the fact that there are reciprocal benefits which are to be derived, in my view, the crystallizing of this relationship can be considered a manifestation of democracy in action, flowing from bottom up. For there can be no argument, and Madam President laid the foundation for that, there can be no argument that a partnership between the people of Trinidad and Tobago and the people of Canada long precedes today. Mr. Speaker, although I just referred to the people of Canada, this was not an inadvertent mistake, as I'm well aware that such reference naturally includes all 10 provinces and the 3 territories. But based on empirical evidence, in 8 out of 10 casual discussions when we Trinidadians and Tobagoans refer to Canada, we are really referring to the province Ontario, and in 4 out of those 8 discussions, we are specifically referring to Toronto or the Greater Toronto Area. And that has nothing to do with the lack of knowledge of the geography or the governance of the Dominion of Canada. It has everything to do with the historical fact that Ontario, with its ridings, has provided a home away from their birth home for many of our citizens who have relocated, bringing with them their skills, expertise, and culture in search of their dream. This, in no doubt, has contributed to the milieu of diversity of which Ontario can boast. Of course, and Madam President referred to it, what first comes to mind is Caribana. But it may be a little-known fact that La Petite Musicale, a choir which was founded in 1940 in Trinidad by our esteemed Olive Walk, a local musician, an ethnomusicologist, and who was the first to collect regional Caribbean folk songs, survives and thrives in Ontario. La Petite Musicale Toronto celebrates its 50th anniversary of its transportation, although sadly the choir has suffered its demise here in Trinidad and Tobago. My own personal encounter with this mutually beneficial exchange carries me back to my childhood when so many of my mother's close friends, locally trained school teachers, left our shores for Ontario, which at the time had many openings for teachers. On the level of civil society, the Canadian Women's Club of Trinidad celebrated its 70th anniversary of existence in January of this year. Established in the fury of World War II, its founding members, the wives of Canadian expats, were very much taken up with the war effort, raising funds, assisting daily in the seamen's and other clubs and camps, sewing and knitting garments, acting as hostesses at dances for several service personnel, assisting in emergency situations and accommodation for Canadians who were in transit to other postings. But their threefold objectives of 1, fostering friendship among Canadians in Trinidad, 2, doing helpful work in the community, and 3, keeping alive interest in Canadian affairs, have withstood the test of time. In the club's own words, and I quote, though the primary objective is fellowship, members have not lost sight of the need for community service, and haven't given time and effort to provide charitable funds and other forms of assistance for the adopted country, Trinidad and Tobago, end quote. In looking at the Daily Express of the 3rd of October 2018, I found support for that assertion under the headline, Canadian Women's Club to the Rescue. It was reported that 3 local organizations and 3 individuals had benefited from the club's annual welfare distribution of $50,000 in 2018. The mutual benefits of the association of our constituents, Mr. Speaker, doesn't stop there. Municipal government is considered the tier of government which is closest to the people, and therefore, Mr. Speaker, it should present no surprise, having regard to the commitment that our respective people have shown to each other, that our capital city of Port of Spain and one of your port cities, St. Catharines, became sister cities over 5 decades ago and shall be celebrating their 51st anniversary in about 3 months' time. I have been informed by His Worship Martinez, the mayor of the city of Port of Spain, that the sisters may be considered mature in age, but their relationship continues to be vibrant and dynamic. As recently as the month of January this year, there was a visiting delegation from His Worship's sister city aimed at polishing the sparkle in their long-standing relationship. In the sphere of education, it is well known that many of our students have pursued their tertiary education at universities located in your ridings, but those include and are not limited to the University of Toronto, Brock, Ryerson, Guelph, our own Vice President went to Guelph, McMaster, Waterloo, York, and its affiliated business school, Schulich, and its law school, Osgood. That educational relationship was taken a notch up about 1 month ago when Brock University and the University of the West Indies twinned with the objective of establishing and developing an Institute of Caribbean Canadian Studies, and additionally announced a new Caribbean International Scholarship to fund 2 students annually in their post-secondary education. In his comments on that occasion, the president of Brock University of Ontario, Canada, Mr. Jervan Ferron, stated, and I quote, "The city of St. Catharines has long held a special partnership with Port of Spain and the country of Trinidad and Tobago. We want to continue that partnership by helping students from across all Caribbean nations experience post-secondary education in the Niagara region," end quote. Mr. Speaker, unless you wish to hear me further, I respectfully submit that I have made my case for the departure in the usual practice to which I know I have recently made reference. Today, the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago and the Legislative Assembly of Ontario have followed the lead set by our constituents, and therefore, Madam President and I are of the firm view that it was only fitting that we allowed them not only to be witnesses through the representatives who are present here, but also afforded them, our constituents, the opportunity to participate in an event which is a continuation of a pattern of affinity which they have established with your constituents. Additionally, this accords with the shared principles of accountability, transparency, and citizens' participation with which both our legislatures are guided. Mr. Speaker, all relationships, including institutional relationships, are activated by people and are sustained by people for the benefit of people. In our case, the partnerships of our constituents, individually and collectively, augur well for this new tier. The significance of your choice of today, which is Victoria Day in Canada, has not escaped us. Queen Victoria's legacy of impartiality as between the then 2 Canadas and her appreciation of inclusiveness are apt for the birthing of our relationship, serving as a reminder that we are partners and not clones, each of us recognizing our differences which we respect and celebrate, but also voluntarily committing to work together, sharing our experiences, skills, and expertise for the benefit and advancement of each other and in the furtherance of our common interests and values. I read somewhere that a good marriage is the union of 2 imperfect people who have refused to give up on each other. In the spirit of that quotation, I say that today we mark the union of 2 legislatures, each of which, in the process of perfecting itself, has committed to actively work with the other for their mutual benefit, and therefore, at the commencement of this partnership, which stands on the shoulders of so many other long-lasting and successful ones, and with the blessings of the unifying legacy of Queen Victoria, Mr. Speaker, I commit that the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago refuses to give up on the Legislative Assembly of Ontario. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, we now come to the vote of thanks, and would you join me in welcoming to the podium the Deputy Speaker of the House of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Esmond Ford. Put your hands together for him.
Thank you, Mr. Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Elcock. Well, it's good afternoon, all right, because I think we are 12:15. Senator, the Honorable Christine Kangaloo, President of the Senate, the Honorable Bridget Mary Anisette George, MP, Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Honorable Ted Arnott, Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, Ontario, Canada, Mr. Rick Nichols, MPP, Deputy Speaker of the Legislature of the Assembly of Ontario, Canada, my colleague, Mr. Nigel De Freitas, Senator, Vice President of the Senate, His Worship, Alderman Joel Martinez, the Mayor of Port-of-Spain, Her Excellency, High Commissioner of Canada, to the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, government ministers, members of Parliament, senators of Trinidad and Tobago. I feel privileged and honored to have been given the opportunity to extend a vote of thanks at this twinning ceremony with the Parliament of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and the Legislative Assembly of Ontario. I would first like to express our profound gratitude to the Senator, the Honorable Christine Kangaloo, President of the Senate, and the Honorable Bridget Mary Anisette George, MP, Speaker of the House of Representatives. Your vision and commitment to continued knowledge, building and creating sustainable relationships for the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago were invaluable to the success of this ceremony. I thank you. I particularly grateful for the Honorable Ted Arnott, Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario, Canada, and Mr. Rick Nichols, MPP, Deputy Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario, Canada, for seeing the importance in promotion of cooperation and support between developed and developing branches of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. Thank you, sir. I must convey heartfelt thanks to the members of the Executive Committee of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association for providing an ideal platform for such a ceremony to occur. Thanks to the executives. I also extend sincere thanks to our cabinet members, members of Parliament and senators of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago for taking the time out of their hectic schedules to be part of this auspicious occasion. I am humbled by the presence of our specially invited guests who have come from various places to show their support and cooperation. Your presence was indeed important to us. Our deepest sense of appreciation is extended to the clerks of the Houses of Trinidad and Tobago and the Legislative Assembly of Ontario, Canada, for sharing with us the benefits of this twinning ceremony. Your contribution were indeed invaluable. Thank you to the members of the media for capturing this very important moment. Behind every successful program lie the manifold efforts of our committed staff of the Parliament. A ceremony of this dimension cannot happen overnight. It requires meticulous planning and execution and an eye for details. And our staff has done just that. I harbor no doubt that given the success of this twinning ceremony, we can only expect great things. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for making this twinning ceremony a success. It has been a great pleasure. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of today's proceedings. To our viewing and listening audience, we thank you for staying with us for the proceedings today. And this part of the proceedings now comes to an end. Thank you very much. just like to invite all of our for some